Hello, everyone. We're calling the ISO tonight. We are calling the ISO tonight, but we gotta talk. We gotta talk some hoops. We had a couple scheduling things, scheduling conflicts. Stuff happens, but we're here to talk basketball. I'm here to talk basketball with y'all for the No Cap Space post game show. Before we get into it, you already know what time it is. Use code NOCAP15 to get 15% off your first home field order. Link is in the description. College season completely underway. You're diving into it. Get some good stuff to watch with it. But we got to have a conversation about Paige Bueckers, show. We got to have a conversation. I don't know how I have my headphones in. I don't need these. I'm not talking to anyone. Paige Bueckers is otherworldly right now. She is in a different stratosphere than any other player in the nation right now. I got two different messages right at the same time as the game ended from Shawnee and Greer. Shawnee says, Paige scoring 29 at 29 years old is kind of cute. And Greer said, tell the chat 12 is on the way. Differing messages from No Cap Space, but it's insane what Paige Bueckers has been able to do to start the season and now specifically into this game. I don't think she broke a sweat this game. It was actually ridiculous, honestly, how easy it looked for Paige Bueckers throughout this game. I mean, she ends the game with 29 points, 12 of 21, which is like a low shooting night for her with the efficiency that she's been able to shoot at, which is a testament to just how good she's been. But when I tell you she was scoring all over the place, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter, especially in that first quarter. Now, I will say the zone tripped UConn up a little bit, and I feel like it slowed down their movement. It slowed down the screening. It slowed down Paige Bueckers at that point. But it just didn't matter ultimately. It didn't matter. And I'm not going to lie. Yes, this was a ranked matchup. But I never really felt like North Carolina was the 14th ranked team in the nation. If we're being honest. I thought that they were overranked at 14. And I guess I feel, I don't know if vindicated is the right word, but this game was begging for a vet in Carolina blue to make some plays. And it just never happened. The young players did their thing. Navarre came in and hooped and was actually like attacking and getting buckets, ends with 15 on 6 of 11. Hooped, did her thing. But when Usby and Donarski don't, this team can only go so far. And especially in the fourth quarter, this game was begging for a run from the vets. Navarre is no longer a young player. You're right, Joe. It kind of feels like it. I don't know why it feels like it, but it does. But regardless, where are the vets? Where are the vets? And this is, it's kind of been the worry, I guess, for North Carolina with me. Obviously, Deja Kelly is in Oregon doing her thing there. And Deja Kelly is not a perfect player. Deja Kelly has her faults. However, they could have used someone that was just kind of ready to go and put the ball up tonight. And I think that they, to a point, they had lived and died by that in the past. But tonight, there was the slightest little heartbeat in the fourth quarter. But no one was there to resuscitate this game for North Carolina. And that's where the vets got to show up. That's where the vets got to show up. That's where they got to show up. And I was pretty, surprised. And I'll tell you, the fact that Donarski and Usby weren't in the game for such a long stretch in the fourth quarter was incredibly telling. Because frankly, they didn't really get a shot to come in here and resuscitate this game. But at the same time, the bench was the one that brought him back into it. So I'm interested where North Carolina goes from here. And I don't want to overreact over one game, but I do think that this was a lot of fear realized today for North Carolina and what I had kind of anticipated them being this season. And so while I don't want to overreact over one game, I also can't help but just feel like my prior thoughts going into this season are now true. And when you add those two things together, it doesn't feel like as much of an overreaction. On the UConn side, though, obviously Paige is Paige. And Magnolia, you are so right, and we could definitely talk about this. The game was a perfect advertisement for the draft lottery on Sunday. Everyone who cares about basketball should be even more excited now to find out where Paige is going to go. 100%. And I'll tell you right now, not to be mean, but I'd be sick being a Chicago Sky fan right now, watching this game and knowing, even if it's you, it ain't going to be you. And that's tough. But it's the reality of the situation here. Because you traded everything for Marina Mabry. I would be sick to my stomach personally. And that's not to rub it in. That's just the truth. But yeah, I mean, Paige just looks far and away like the best player in the country right now. It looks so ridiculously easy for Paige Bueckers right now. And there's certainly more games on the horizon where we are going to see against better and better opponents. I don't think it matters. I think Paige Bueckers, not this is some like revolutionary take or anything, but Paige Bueckers is the best player in the nation right now. And like, I'm a Juju Watkins truther. Across the, like, I have agendas that directly oppose this that I have been pushing last season. But Paige Bueckers is the best player in the nation right now. And I don't think it's particularly close. Yes, USC played earlier today, and the stats were put up. It still looks a little clunky at times, and we can talk about that if we want. But Paige Bueckers is the best player in the country right now. And it's not particularly close. But I do want to, talk about other players on UConn as well. Sarah Strong, field goal percentage, we got to work on it. 0-7 from 3, we got to work on it. But she was everywhere tonight. I mean, 14 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks. That is a player that you can have next to Paige Bueckers and win a national championship with. And there's still some players on deck that are going to be entering and playing legitimate minutes. But Sarah Strong was just everywhere. Like it was a presence felt in this game with Sarah Strong. I will say one player that I'm interested in seeing how it progresses. And I put this on Blue Sky since we're not on the other app anymore. I'm interested in monitoring Caitlin Chen's field goal volume this season. Has averaged double-figure points throughout her first 3 years of college at Princeton. We had her on. We're very familiar with the player that she is, and we're very big fans of the player that she is. We've seen it, and it hasn't kind of it's a different role, obviously, than she was playing at Princeton. However, Carmen, that's still a very, very solid double-digit scorer. Had 9 points tonight, 5 fouls as well, only 6 shots. I'm just interested in seeing how that just develops overall, and figuring that out. And it will be interesting to see. And not even to say that this is wrong right now. This might just be what she ends up doing this season. And if that works, that's great. That's no problem with me. Because obviously you know what you kind of know what you're coming into when you transfer here. Like, she was coming to play defense, she was coming to facilitate, and she was coming to help alleviate some of the pressure off of Paige Bueckers. Now, I don't know if she needs that alleviation, but that's what it's there for. I can only scoreboard watch this one. How do you think UConn starting lineup changes when Aubrey Griffin, AZ, and Ayana come back? That is a fantastic question. honestly, it'll be really interesting to see. I think probably Ashlyn Shade struggled tonight. I think Ice Brady will probably will be dropping. I don't see how you could take Sarah Strong out. It'll be interesting because it kind of just depends at that point. Like what do you want to emphasize if you're Geno? Are you cool with running younger? Do you want to play older? And what is it? Is it a buildup for these players, or are they just coming back in and immediately on a roll, just going? So I honestly don't really know. I obviously those are starting caliber players. And Ice did play well tonight. To Joe's point, 9 points, 9 rebounds. You're not asking Ice Brady to do much more than that, and she played her role fantastically. So like you're not mad at that. 3 of 5, you're totally okay with that. That is excelling in her role. She was felt. There was a presence felt in this game. It's just kind of a matter of what you want to do and how do you handle these players coming back. Welcome to the UConn problem of just having way too much talent, and it's a great problem to have. Now we kind of see how it gets handled. But yeah, I mean, for UConn, Paige just looks like it's just automatic. We saw it in all different types of way, from deep, we saw it in the mid range. Like, not that she wasn't like undoubtedly pro ready already, but like it's clearly just it's so evident that she is playing at a higher level than everyone else on the floor right now. It's that simple. And Shawnee will probably contribute that to her being 29 years old, as she said. We're back to lying about players' ages. Don't tell Shawnee I said that, but I'm interested in just how Paige, because she takes 21 shots tonight. And that's always been the biggest critique of Paige Bueckers. That's no secret. Is you want her shooting the ball. And she shot the ball tonight. And it never felt like, oh man, Paige is forcing it. It never felt like that. It felt like, don't stop. Do not stop shooting, because you're cooking. You're cooking. So I'm interested to see like the kind of things I'm watching. It's definitely the starting lineup. That's a great point. The starting lineup, I'm looking at Paige's shot volume, and I'm looking at Caitlin Chen's shot volume. And Chen's might go down even more, honestly, as a player like AZ comes back. So it'll be very interesting to see how this kind of continues and grows as the season goes on. I did want to look at, though, and feel free as more thoughts come in. If you guys have any thoughts on this game, I called the ISO tonight. So any thoughts you guys have on the game that we want to talk about, let's dive into it. I do have, let me pull it up. ESPN dropped their mock draft that we can certainly look at. Because I have thoughts. I have some thoughts. We can kind of go into this. Let's talk. Obviously the draft lottery is on Sunday. We're gonna have you guys covered for that. Trust. And if you haven't seen Rashard's first mock draft on our website, you can find that in the description below. But ESPN dropped this one today, and there was some interesting movement in here. Surprise, Paige Bueckers is the number 1 pick. No complaints. That works for me. I don't think anyone watching this game is like, I don't know. No complaints from me. Number 2, Kiki Irielfin. Obviously, we've been friends of the show with Kiki. Number 2 pick, absolutely. I don't think it's any debate either. I still think USC has some kinks to work out, especially in the half court. It feels weird. And that's okay. However, Notre Dame is on the way next weekend. Notre Dame is on the way. And if they don't get that figured out, it could get bad. And Notre Dame, is coming in there with a chip on their shoulder. This entire season for Notre Dame is just a major chip on their shoulder, whether it be comebacks, whether it be awards from last year. Like, this entire season for Notre Dame is just a massive chip on their shoulder. I'm intrigued. But when it comes to the mock draft, there's no question that Kiki should be the number 2 pick. I don't think there's any debate on that. Here we go. The Chicago Sky, AZ Flood. She raises in their mock draft from last time that they dropped. I forget when they dropped, so excuse me on that. But she hasn't played yet. And this is no hate to her, but you haven't played yet. We don't know exactly what we're working with right now. Now, the best version of her being a lottery pick, no problem with me. But I'm just intrigued that this is where the movement was in this mock draft. I don't really get it, to be quite honest with you. And obviously she could stay another year and everything, but including her in here, I don't see it at number 3. What I do see at number 3 is Olivia Miles. We just saw Olivia Miles in Chicago. We interviewed her right after it. And the 3-point volume is starting to increase. And that's something that we talked about in the interview. And it is exactly what she needs to do to be the perfect Chicago Sky point guard. If she gets the 3-point shooting there on top of the playmaking that we already know and love, come on, bro. Like, it's too easy. And talking about chips from Notre Dame, nobody has a bigger chip on their shoulder, potentially in the entire nation right now, than Olivia Miles. So I would personally have her at 3 to the Sky. I think is a perfect fit. Obviously, the 3-point shooting needs to get a little bit of work, and she said that herself. I'll tell you right now, I know a certain coach in Chicago now that is pretty well known for helping a Notre Dame guard with their 3-point shooting. I'm not too worried about that. Continuing on, Lauren Betts. Now, we don't know if she'll be coming out. Honestly, if she comes out, there's some conversation to have her higher than just 5. Because Lauren Betts she looks like she's flipped the switch to be dominant this season, which is massive for UCLA. And like we saw in Paris, and we talked about in the post-game then, but just her being annoyed when she doesn't get the ball. Not in a negative team way, but just like, give me the ball. You see my numbers, give me the ball. Was the best development we could have possibly seen from Lauren Betts. That's exactly what you want. You are 6'7". You are incredibly skilled. Give me the ball. I loved it. And if that's what she's bringing to the W, she should be a lottery pick. Now, you can get in the fit and everything, and that definitely is a thing here, especially with a team like the Sky. You're not going to draft Lauren Betts just because of who you already have on the roster. But Lauren Betts is a lottery pick type talent. Like, especially if the switch has flipped the way it seems. Dominique Malonga, we saw her in the Olympics a little bit. Just a prototypical, like, European player that has like all the potential in the world that I feel like people aren't going to, like, people might kind of side eye on that night and could absolutely blossom into a ridiculous player in the W. It's interesting seeing it for the Mystics, who obviously have Shakira Austin, who have Aaliyah Edwards. Neither of those are really centers to me. They're definitely 4s, but it just is already a little bit crowded. So, if she's still not even, like it says here, doesn't turn 19 until November. Like, it's weird in the W how the age difference in draftees, but when it comes to European players, I don't know if we've seen a European player in recent years at this age with this much potential. So a team is absolutely going to spend a high pick on her, and whether it be for the now or for the later, and all signs point to getting fantastic returns from her. So I'm cool with it being this high. I think any team will kind of be happy to take her, honestly, like even on how the roster currently looks now, just because of how much time you're going to have with her. I'm intrigued. The Mystics are an interesting team for me, but regardless, no team's going to be mad at that. I'm pretty sure from one mock to the other, Anissa Morrow might have had the biggest drop. And we just saw her have a 20-20 game. And for me, I'm interested in that because AZ hasn't played. Yeah, Anissa Morrow's had a 20-20 game. Doesn't really make sense to me in that sense. They're certainly different players, and I think they'll both end up playing the 3 in the W, but different players. I'm interested, though, for New York because New York, to me, needs a point guard. They need a backup point guard. And I'm seeing one down here that just had an incredible game in Charlotte where we had boots on the ground at. That would look great in a New York Liberty jersey. And I told Shawnee this post game. I told Shawnee that Tahina Paopao has New York Liberty written all over her as Courtney Vandersloot continues to get older. That is the fit for me, not Anissa Morrow. But I also don't think Anissa Morrow should probably be here at 7. Now, there's certainly things for Anissa Morrow to work on. But the energy that she has rebounding the ball, we just learned what an energetic rebounder from LSU can do. Now, they're not the same, but to be a 6'1", to be able to play the 3, and to do other things offensively while still being able to rebound the ball the way that she's able to is unique and something that teams will absolutely go after. Janiah Barker is also an interesting one. I think, obviously, it feels like the spot for the Fever is the 4 that they are going to need to fill. We don't know what's going to happen with Nalissa Smith. Stephanie White is there. It kind of seems just based on like social media bios and stuff like that, reading the tea leaves, like stuff seems to be at least a little bit smoother. Now, will we see how that goes? Will we play this out this season? I don't know. But Janiah Barker is certainly a very solid 4 that if you can't get a player like even Anissa Morrow as a smaller 4, I would be willing to hear you out if she fell to the Fever. I would hear you out. But Barker, I want to see more from her at UCLA right now. It's been a little bit of a slower start, which is okay. No problem. But I just want to see a little bit more. Tahina Paopao is draft season. We talked about her a lot on the post-game show from LI Tip-Off in Charlotte. It feels different. And I'll tell you what made me feel like, oh, okay, she's leveled up, was the isolation buckets that she got when South Carolina needed them. When South Carolina needed them, she was the one that went and got some buckets. And that is the stuff that made my eyebrows raise. I was like, okay, Tahina might have leveled up. Continuing on, Roy Harmon. Oh my goodness, I'm such a Roy Harmon fan. I'm such a Roy Harmon fan. I don't know if Chicago is the fit because she is such a defensive guard. And she is incredible as a defensive guard, and she's a great facilitator. I just don't think that is what the Sky need. Now, they can use some defense on the perimeter, certainly, but you've got to have some shooting with it. And again, maybe this is a case of Tyler Marsh, putting in the work when it comes to allowing a player to develop their three-point shot. But I would just worry if you are immediately putting Rory into the system as the starting guard, what that would do for the spacing across the board. Especially if it's next to Kennedy Carter, who also isn't a three-point shooter. We'll see how that goes. Like I said earlier, I would still have Olivia Miles going to Chicago in the lottery personally, over AZ in accordance to this mock draft. You certainly can't go wrong with drafting Rory when you need a point guard, though. I mean, I've gotten to see her play in person more than most players. And I remember her freshman year, the Big 12 championship, I was amazed by just how much, just the pride that she took in everything on the court as a freshman. And that hasn't left. Now, the injuries have certainly played a part and allowed us to see her less. But the pride that she plays with is ridiculous. She's an incredible point guard. I don't know if it's the point guard that the Sky need. That's where it gets a little bit interesting to me. Potentially even seeing her go to Seattle would be interesting. But the 3-point shooting is definitely going to be an odd part there. Winding down now. Cheyenne Sellers still links. I see it. I don't hate it. I'm kind of indifferent, to be honest with you. I can see the vision. Obviously, I think if you're Minnesota, you'd want some size. 6'2" certainly isn't small, especially for a player that can handle the ball. I'm not opposed. I don't know if I love it, but I'm not opposed. And Sonia Citron to end this off. I mean, I could absolutely see the vision here as Diana Taurasi. Maybe this is it. Maybe it's not. She fits right in there to potentially, presumably, when DT leaves, Sophie Cunningham will be up next. Sonia can fit into Sophie's role right now. That feels pretty seamless. But I just can't get over, and honestly, the reason why I brought this up, AZ Floyd at 3. That just doesn't make sense to me. Not right now. Could she come back and kill it? Absolutely. But to have her move up and to have the Sky picking her over Olivia Miles makes no sense to me. Makes no sense at all. Let's see. Look at the talent in the lottery draft class. Any chance to be a Debbie Downer and guess who gets cut on the current team rosters to make room? Ooh. That's a good question. Honestly, I think a lot of these teams have free agency room, just players kind of coming off contracts. I'm trying to think. Let me see if I can pull up some free agency, because, like I said, I really do think that most of these teams will have players just kind of coming off the books naturally that will help them add some of these pieces. Let's look in the lottery. Who do we got here? Scrolling. Okay, Mystics. If you're saying they're drafting Olivia Miles, Shook Sutton is reserved. Probably. Yeah, probably, to be honest. Let's see who else we got. The Sky have a ton coming off the books. Here, I can share this instead. Let's look. Izzy Harrison, Bree Turner, Diamond DeShields, all unrestricted. Dana Evans is another player that is restricted, but feels like could be on the way out potentially. I mean, honestly, I expect several of those players just to not be there next season. So I'm not too worried about who they're going to cut because I think they're going to have room. Now, will they decide on who they want to keep? If I'm them, if they're drafting AZ, you probably want to keep some of these more of these guard and if they're drafting AZ, you're probably looking at trying to keep Izzy or Bree Turner, but I don't really think that they're going to. If I was to guess, it's just kind of going off hunches here, realistically. Next up, the Wings. Natasha Howard won't be there. We already know that. She said, I'm out. So she's gone. I mean, Kiki, Natasha Howard, in and out, smooth. And we also don't know about Satu, obviously, and where she might be ending up. And then finally, the Sparks. Kian, If it really comes down to it, you just won't be here. Ari McDonald, if it comes down to it, it's Paige Bueckers. I'm sorry. Any of y'all can go. With all due respect, any of y'all can go. That's Paige Bueckers. So I'm not I'm ultimately not too worried. You think Satu stays if they get Paige? I think that is a very, very real possibility. I think it is almost obviously just thinking fit-wise, right? If you get the number 2 pick and you're drafting Kiki, that doesn't – I think they can make it work, but it's certainly not seamless for Satu and Kiki. But if you get Paige Bueckers, you got Paige and Auriemma as your 1 and 2, and Satu, you're not feeling too bad. You're not feeling too bad at all. So I can see that absolutely playing a part. I don't like I said, I think you can make it work with Kiki and Satu. I think Satu is certainly flexible enough to do that. I just don't know how willing, on top of just in general, it doesn't really seem like she's gonna be coming back. So I really think it's more so if they get Paige, she can stay. Any other outcome, she's probably gone. And even if they do get Paige, I don't think that's a guarantee that she comes back by any means. So I would say more than likely, I would just guess regardless that Satu is leaving, just off of what we've seen publicly. But if they get Paige, that's a hell of a bargaining chip to make you come back. I think especially Satu is an interesting case as well because we saw her openly, more than most players, honestly, talk about when the Fever and Caitlin Clark would come in and what that did for the fan base. And she made jokes about she wished there was more Dallas fans, but she was glad that people packed the building. I don't know what the Paige impact in the W is going to be like. We don't know that. But I'd be willing to bet that there's going to be some more Dallas fans in the building if Paige comes. And if that is something that intrigues Satu, I can see that being a part here. But I also think Satu might just end up a Fever. But I'm kind of just padding that, to be honest with you. There's no info. There's no nothing like that. It just makes sense to me. Sorry, last question. Oh, no, Jen, you're good. To you, what team is the best fit for Paige? I mean, the Sparks honestly just make sense. Like, it might not be as immediate. Like, I think there might be better teams out there. And, like, if you just drop Paige into this team, they're X amount better. But when it comes to the actual realistic options, I just think the Sparks are in a tier of their own. It could not have lined up better. Where they got their forward, they got their big, and now they need a guard. And like that's kind of been the thing with the Sparks for a minute now, is that they just haven't had great guard play, and now they got it. Like if they get Paige Bueckers, you got it. And every sign points to her having immediate impact as well on top of that. So to me, I think it's pretty clear, honestly, that the Sparks are the best fit. But I don't think you're getting the Wings out of that number 1 slot if they're able to win the lottery. But yeah, I just Cameron Brink, Rakia Jackson, and Paige Bueckers all on the same team in Los Angeles. Sounds pretty fun to me. Selfishly, I kind of want her to go to Dallas because that's where I'm closest to, and I can go cover more games. But you can't be mad at her going to the Sparks. I think that's probably the best fit. But yeah, I'm intrigued. Obviously, the draft lottery is on Sunday. We got y'all covered for that. Next weekend, I'll be hitting the road again. So be on the lookout for some more post games with some boots on the ground. Probably be on ISO and on Lowe's as well. But there's a couple good games in a city next weekend that I'm excited to be at. We'll put it like that. We're gonna go see some friends in No Cap Space, and I'm very excited to go and do that. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout Sunday as well, because like I said, we got you covered with the draft lottery. We got some stuff cooking up, especially for the new year and going into conference play. So we're really genuinely appreciative of how much support y'all have shown us. We're still at like 9 months doing this, and y'all have continued to support us And we hope that you will continue to do so as we continue to add new things to the No Cap space. So make sure you stay tapped in. All the links down below. It's completely free to get all your No Cap space content. You can get 50% off your first home field purchase as well. And I will see you guys next time.